So with baseball starting up over the weekend, I realized that there are two different types of really annoying crowd behavior that I want to ask you guys what is more annoying.
The wave.
Well, outside of the wave, which actually there was a
The
pretty,
beach ball. Get in the hole.
No, I love the beach ball.
None of these are the nominees that I have. It's not specifically crowd behavior as much as crowd reactions.
Okay.
So in baseball, when there's a fly ball hit, fans automatically, even when it's a
pop fly to second.
it's infuriating because it's so obvious off the bat that is not going to be a home run.
Yeah,
it's
obvious
a lazy fly ball.
It's obvious for us baseball guys because I am like Jeremy. I judge. I'm the guy that's like, it's a routine fly ball. Why are you guys getting excited?
I mean, the pitcher's arm is going up. Like, it's a pop-up.
What's
Right.
worse, the fan that gets super excited and thinks of a routine fly ball is a home run, or me, the person that is like, I have to let everyone know that it's not?
Yes.
So
And by the way, has there ever been an outfielder who needed the pitcher to raise his hand to know that it's a fly ball?
maybe.
No.
Yeah, Manny Ramirez played baseball for a while.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Ice cream can of corn.
That's a good way of signifying. But the other fan behavior, that is similar to this one in basketball, in your sport, Naveen, is when there's a foul already committed and the players continue but then make a shot, make a layup or go dunk.
Take
and
6 steps.
The defense has already clearly ended. They're just practicing shooting a three. Another player's going up trying to block it from within the rim. And everybody goes crazy when the ball goes in as if a three-pointer was just made. And it's so obvious that there has not even the no basket, Roy. It's such a dead ball that there's no announcers. No one needs to declare
They don't address
that it's not even addressed in the stadium. Which is more annoying to you, the fans who react to that shot or the fans that react to a fly ball?
I'll be honest. I'm not as annoyed by either. I think it's funny when the basketball one happens because it's like, are these people so locked in that they didn't hear the whistle, or are they so not locked in that they didn't realize no one is playing anymore? Everyone just stopped.
For me, it's hockey when fans are urging these players to shoot when they clearly don't have a shooting lane.
Yeah.
Like, shoot! Like, the shot's going to get blocked.
Is there a football equivalent of like an annoying thing that the crowd
I'm still caught up on Tony not liking the beach ball. I mean, that to me, if I see that thing, I'm like, bring it over here. Boom! I love hitting that thing.
Beach ball.
The wave is the worst, though. That we can all agree.
They both we can kind of be done with them. At UFC events, one thing I love that the crowd does is they'll yell, "Grab it and twist it!"
Before they storm the Capitol? Sorry.
Oh, Jesus. Wow.
Wait, they yell that?
No, because nobody in baseball has ever. Weird thing to say.
Is that something that happens in the UFC a lot?
Yeah,
in
all the
unison?
time. Yeah.
That is hilarious.
I've listened, but you'll hear it.
I've been guilty of it. It's
Wait,
a fun thing
like,
to scream.
Is it one of those things? Do they do it when there's a lull in the action?
Yes,
So
that's when you have to do it.
it comes through.
Yeah, come into
crystal
WrestleMania
clear.
near you.
Crystal clear. The entire stadium.
Most
hears
certainly come into Lincoln Financial Field on Saturday and Sunday when I'm there for Mania. 100%.
That's cool, though. That's a cool thing the crowd does.
Greg, anything to add? Any sport thing to throw in there?
You know what I always get amused by in basketball when a guy misses a free throw and all his teammates have to like give him touch his hand and give him support, moral support. Like he's so down about missing.
You don't
that
like the
field goal.
free throw high fives?
No, not really. No.
Greg, it's less support and more OCD.
Yeah.
They're just into this routine of like make or miss. I've got to high five everybody.
And then they reach back for the guy behind him, and sometimes no one's even there.
It's
just
weird.
like,
It's
okay.
just
then
weird
Kevin
to
Love
me.
does the I'll dap myself up. It's all right. Josh Hart is also a big self-dapper.
Or how about on free throws when an MVP candidate who is not an MVP candidate gets the MVP treatment, and you're like,
Yeah, that's
what are we doing?
no,
here?
I love that for a home player.
Like LaMelo Ball getting MVP chance.
MVP, and it's like,
Taco Fall.
I feel like that is decidedly a 21st century ma'am thing. Like they didn't do this in the 20 CB. right? Like in the
You
90s.
knew your MVPs in 20 CB.
Like back then, if you got the MVP chant, you were legitimately one of like the 3 guys.
But
that
now
was
it's
in the-
every team's best player.
Every
Like Jimmy
team-
Butler, while he's our
Constantly.
MVP,
Yeah.
is never going to be in the running for league MVP. So it's like, does he
I
deserve that
am
chant?
kind of annoyed by that now that I think
I'm
about
like,
it.
come on,
That's-
what are we
it's
doing?
annoying.
It's like patronizing at one point.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to win MVP. Why are you chanting MVP?
Jimmy Butler's like, I'm 27th in voting right now, or like, the
Especially
odds.
when it's a sad chant, when it picks up a little bit and then just peters out.
Oh,
after
that
about
might be
10
worse.
seconds.
Yeah, that might be the worst thing. The chants that never really pick up beyond a section.
Yeah.
Like they start and you kind of hear it faintly, someone else kind of like, okay, MVP, no one else is doing this, I quit. That is so depressing.
Yeah, you hear that in a Marlins game, even when they're not 0-5. The "Let's Go Marlin" chant. It's over in the left field bleachers, and then it just never.
No, what you hear
nobody
there
picks it
is
up.
a chant for the opposing team, and then Marlins fans start booing. It's like, let's go Mets.
Yeah.
Let's go. Boo.
That's when they get loud. I love that. It's like that's the
It's
line.
like, we're not going to chant, but you definitely can't chant.
Shut the hell up.
I will never forget, though, I was, I guess, 9 years old at 2004 opening day for the Marlins, and I was in a section where there were a bunch of what I thought at the time were grown adults and were probably like college-age kids who were drunk out of their minds.
9 years
And-
old.
I was 9 years old.
Everyone's
And-
I was drinking beer.
Well, exactly.
You were one of the college kids.
Yeah.
Right, you were probably one of those kids, and there were this group of guys in my section, and there was a new first baseman for the Marlins, and they were just all game long. He-sop Choi, He-sop Choi.
That was actually me.
He-sop
That was
Choi.
100% me.
Were you really? You might have been
no,
sitting
I was
right behind me.
I was that college kid.
That was long-haired Mike, right?
Yeah.
Did I have that right? That era right?
Oh, the flow.
I remember being at a camp at Pro Player Stadium. This is like back in the day when I was probably like 14 or 15 and sitting in the outfield and heckling the out of Lance Berkman before I even knew who he was. When he was like a young guy before he
Puma.
I was just like I don't remember what I was yelling, but I just have a memory of heckling and just being the worst. I had a run of like 15 to like 19. I wasn't like saying inappropriate stuff, but I was just the guy that was gonna, you stink.
Does your father know about
Yeah,
that?
Greg.
No, I remember that.
Did you ever
Way
have to reprimand him for his behavior?
I
at a
rarely
sporting
went with
event?
my dad. I was usually with friends. My dad was like working the game usually.
No, but those years were not your best.
Who's at their best those years? Who looks back at like 15 to 19? I really had life figured out.
Mike Dexter.
We'd go on
Can't
family
hardly wait.
vacations when Christopher was like 16.
We don't
and-
have to like get
and
into
Michael
everything.
was like
now we can't
12,
get into
And they
everything.
would spend the whole time just fighting with each
Oh,
other.
16 and a 12-year-old fighting. That's just so
You
unpredictable.
fought your 12-year-old brother?
ridiculous.
Not like physically.
We're on a European vacation. We're in Rome, and these two are just fighting with each other like they're in their own house.
Well, when in
We're
Rome.
kids.
Were
When
they,
in Rome, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah,
were they slapping it, doing the?
yeah, exactly.
Were they doing that? Don't touch me. I'm not touching you. And put the finger right near
Oh, yeah,
close to.
yeah.
Looks like you have experience with that.
Yo, the sibling greatest hits. Oh my God. How about like just the repeat whatever they say?
Oh,
Stop
yeah.
copying me. I'm not copying you.
I do that with my daughter too. She hates it.
Yeah. I used to do this. The most annoying sound in the world, which is.
The monotone
That sounds like when you decided to start the segment with Lucy. That question when you didn't know you were hosting.
Get his ass, Jeremy.
It also sounds like the first note of your Obama.
Oh man, that is really annoying.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
You had to breathe sometime, you know.
Yeah, quit that.
This is actually really impressive.
Please stop. I pay you to stop.
Greg, is this taking you back to the Eternal City with Chris and Michael?
No, they were more physical than that. They weren't.
This is impressive.
The breath control.
Yeah,
for
that's
the
good.
love of God.
You're like Kenny G, like breathing while doing it.
Crazy throat on a mean.
Oh, there it is. Hey, all right, yeah.
I wish I'd have been timing that.
Yeah.
Did you hit a minute?
Oh
Went
man.
over a
When
minute?
you
Wow.
look at what's happening.
Yeah.
That's I just loved it, man. You cut it off too soon. You got to get the landscape of women's college basketball. That was a dead giveaway. That I had nothing. I was up in the air. I was falling. The parachute. That didn't work. The backup.
Ripping the cord, it's not working.
Especially because you were bragging all show about how we weren't talking about the landscape of women's college
Yeah,
basketball,
right.
and it was like we're talking basketball, and it was when you take a look at women's college basketball.
When you look at what's happening. You look at what's happening.
When you look at what's happening.
You get a
Such
view of what's
crutch.
happening.
I do that a lot. I do that on radio interviews a lot, where it'll be my turn to ask the question, and I'll forget, and then I realize, oh, it's my turn. When you look at, that means I have no idea.
You also-
In the sense of.
The move also is, Lucy, let me ask you a question. It's like she's here to answer questions, so you could probably just get with it.
No, that's more of a verbal take. When you look at the landscape, that is absolutely, I have nothing.
Yeah, you're buying yourself
when
5
you
seconds
look at
time.
what's happening, Come on, man. What is happening? What's happening with MLB uniforms, Mike?
They're terrible, and we knew this. We knew this headed into the season, but I guess having not the spring training sets, the actual regular season sets, you realize how bad they screwed the pooch here. And Major League Baseball, Nike, Fanatics, they've done the cost analysis. It's not like they don't know these things are bad. And when I say they're bad, they are really, really bad.
So you saw some difference. So what?
Actually, you're not seeing that much.
Dense.
You're actually seeing mismatched colors. On road grays, the tops for several teams, more than a handful, are not matching the pants. They look like baby blue tops by comparison to some of the pants. It's really bad. Not to mention some of the fits are pretty bad. And also, what Fanatics and MLB, glad you seized on that. What Fanatics and MLB touted was performance wear. That was what was in the press releases and all that, and how they justified moving to a different uniform template. Where's the performance wear? Because when I watch some of these teams wearing their road grays, I see sweat stains everywhere in ways that I used to not. And also, and this thing has actually gone underreported, you know how certain teams have designated uniforms for certain days?
Yes.
My Mariners are among them. They have these cream-colored uniforms that they wear on Sundays. The St. Louis Cardinals recently famously have these baby blue, genuine baby blue, not mismatched road grays situation. These teams are forced to wear different uniform sets because, quote, the uniforms are not ready yet.
Wow.
Certain teams are
sorry?
The uniform sets for these designated days, just as the Mariners being one, the famous powder blue St. Louis Cardinals Sunday road set, they're not ready. And in some cases, they're not going to be ready until June.
I feel like these are issues that never used to exist, Greg.
No, not in my lifetime.
This is the new and unimproved Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz. Gamble on by DraftKings.
Greg, a lot of times we forget kind of what the toxic mix of incredible amounts of disposable income and the folly of youth provide. Most regular people, I would say, not everybody, but most regular people, when you're 21, 22, 23 years old, you're not making a lot of money. You're living fairly meager means. You haven't made anything of yourself yet. And so it's hard to kind of remember as we get older and do have disposable income, but also have the hindsight of maturity that, when you were 22, 23, you were a real reckless piece of shit, right? I know I can tell a million stories of me at 23 doing things that were just ridiculously dumb, but I did them in anonymity, and I did them without a whole lot of disposable income to fuel them. Pro players in major sports like the NFL, like Rashee Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs, don't have the benefit of anonymity, and they are aided by loads of disposable income. And so Saturday, allegedly, he was in a crash in Dallas, his hometown, that was the result of racing cars, a Corvette and a Lamborghini. And here's the video right here from the dash cam of somebody.
Scary as.
Yeah. Like, imagine you just driving on a Saturday afternoon, maybe coming back from the farmer's market, get you some plums.
Some honey.
Yeah.
Ooh, some plums.
Yeah. Ripe and juicy.
My wife, Donna.
Ready for the taking. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, zoom, zoom, around you come these two automobiles flying at dangerous speeds colliding.
And then getting out of the car.
And then get out of the car and nonchalantly walking away.
Crazy.
In the middle of the highway.
And I guess, Mike, let me start with you, because Rashee Rice wasn't exactly like an altar boy.
No, it when there was draft evaluation, and dating back to his playing days, there were whispers about off the field concerns with him, and it was certainly a part of the draft narrative around them. If you were just introduced to Rashee Rice over the course of this season, he was very much a face of their social media presence, really presented well in interviews, seemed like a really fun guy. Maybe it was a case of a kid maturing at the next level. Certainly, at the very least, from this video, what we can tell is this is a very immature act, but the Kansas City Chiefs, they kind of do this. There isn't another franchise in the league that would have signed Matt Araiza, not in the fashion that they did post Super Bowl glow. And dating back to previous GMs, they would often take character risk. And now they have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce as well, players with pretty sterling reputations that allow this franchise to take some chances that others typically decide against. And that's what winning buys you.
This is the Patriots way. Right? The Patriots did this famously, probably better than anybody else, of saying, hey, we've got a halo here, and so the halo is going to cover for maybe some of these less than scrupulous kind of people. By the way, same thing happened in San Antonio in the NBA. There are a lot of people. Steven Jackson, my good friend Steven Jackson, he had a checkered past. And, he got his first start with the Nets, played well, and then the Spurs picked him up. And the thought was, the Spurs picked him up because they knew they could afford to, because they were the guys with the clean-cut guys and the good guys, they could afford to take on a bad boy.
I can't even imagine, and I don't think most of us can, I can't imagine at age 20, 22, going from very little money to that kind of money. It must be like, all of a sudden, you hit the lottery. All of a sudden, you were a millionaire overnight, and you're buying a Lamborghini. And if you're buying a Lamborghini, by the way, you like fast cars. You're not buying that to go the speed limit, right?
Right.
I mean, it's a Lamborghini. So it's a warning flag. Pro teams, they should have an assistant coach or somebody, and maybe they do. You would know better than I. Somebody whose only job is to lead these players into maturity and into making smart decisions and everything.
So they often do. I mean, just because one player has an off-field incident doesn't mean that that's not the case. It should be stated. There was also a statement from Rashee Rice's attorney. What was being put out there for a full weekend was that police were looking for him, and then the statement came early yesterday morning that, according to Rashee Rice's attorney, that he's actually been cooperating with authorities, which actually went against some of the stuff that we had heard reported.
I think, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's what your vets are for in the locker room, right? Like, your older guys that have been there 10, 15 years in the game, have the money, have made multi-million-dollar contracts before, are giving you the game of, hey, maybe street racing, not something we do around here. But then you look at the roster construction for the Chiefs, fairly young roster in some aspects, right? You have Mahomes, you have Kelce, you have a couple guys in the offensive line, but a lot of young guys on offense and defense. Who's there really stepping into him, talking to him, being like, yo, we don't do this, we can't do this, you got to watch your money. Now that's a felony if you're in hit and run and it's gone. Like, a lot of things happen.
There's a couple of things going on. Like, number one, yes, your vets, that's what you expect your vets to do. In NFL locker rooms, it seems to be a lot more segmented by position, like the people you hang out with every day. So if you got a young receiving corps who's a vet there. The other part is, man, at the end of the day, this isn't college. Like, I can be a vet and tell a guy, hey, man, we don't do that, whatever. He's going to do when he leaves the practice facility, he's going to do what he wants to do. I'll tell you a great example, though, Greg. You brought up, like, going from no money to having money. I used to, when we draft players, I would be the first person they'd see when they come fly in the day after the draft. I'd help them get set up where to live, get a car, all those things. Summer league, we'd work with them on the court. Everything up to basically until we get to camp, right? So I was kind of a guy who held a lot of guys' hands in that regard. But one of my favorite things that happened in the middle of summer, because it wouldn't be right after the draft, it would be right before we go to summer league a lot of times, was when they signed their first deal. And before they sign, I would say stop and wait a second, because you'll never have a moment like this. You can end up being a Hall of Famer. You can sign 3 max deals after this. You will never have the moment from being dead broke to a millionaire that's going to happen right now. This is it. This is the biggest fulcrum in your life, because everything else after this is going to feel like par for the course. Hey, I signed a max deal. Yeah, well, I was a millionaire before. Now I'm a multimillionaire. But going from millionaire to multimillionaire, there's some lifestyle changes, but it's nowhere near as much as ramen noodles to 5-star restaurants, Michelin star, whenever I want, right, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When you're talking about someone that young, experiencing that rapid a financial shift, it's really hard to tell them what to do, man. It's really hard to tell them what to do and what not to do with your money. For one, it feels like it's never going to run out. Like, what are you talking about? I just got a check for $500,000. What do you mean? I got to save it, or I got another one coming in 2 weeks. I'm going to spend this money. I'm going to do this, at least treat myself, is what a lot of guys will say. I'm not going to do this forever. I'm just going to treat myself with this first check, right? And then the other part of it is, again, like, hey, I did save my money. I did do all the responsible things. This is my disposable income. And you know what I'm going to dispose it with? A fast car. And like you said, Greg, I didn't buy a fast car to go 55.
Right.
I bought a fast car to see how fast it can go and basically play Gran Turismo in real life. And when you're talking about someone who's that young, I don't know. I don't know if there is a way that you can foolproof it other than, what Mike is talking about, just drafting people who are just straight-laced, whatever. But sometimes
I wasn't insinuating that, and there was plenty of examples of people correcting some of their behavior and maturing at the next level. Look, Kansas City is, even though some of these players have maintained off-the-field antics, Tyreek Hill famously among them, they've had plenty of on-field success in doing things this certain way. Hopefully, this kind of reads like something that, thankfully, it wasn't a Henry Ruggs situation. Yeah. No one was seriously injured there. This reads like something that a good attorney, provided that there is actual cooperation, that he can get out of without serving jail time, and hopefully he takes the opportunity to mature. You had plenty of success already. You have people on your team that can teach you how to be pros.
So now the league has to discipline him now.
Yeah, probably in the neighborhood of 4 games if we're looking at precedent, considering also it really does help his case that.
But what's the precedent? Hold on, what's the precedent?
I've seen
Ruggs?
people. No. I've seen people come in when something like this happens. It depends on what the police end up doing here.
Right.
But 4 games has been tossed around by people that follow this sport. So we'll see.
I should be clear. It's not unclear right now if Rice was driving or if he was just a passenger in the car. Of course, it stands to reason that he's the millionaire who owns the car. Of course, he would be driving, but we don't know.
The statement that I saw from his attorney did not try to say he wasn't behind the wheel. Didn't also say that he was behind the wheel, but typically if that's going to be the defense, the attorney would come out.
The car is registered in his name.
Yes,
that's what we know for certain.
It is his car.
Right.
But we don't know if he was driving. Police said 4 people were injured and 2 were hospitalized. So there's that. This is one of them weird stories. Like, what's the takeaway, Greg? No, it's not a clock.
Okay, you got me paranoid.
He was so scared.
I know. I just gave a quick glance, but apparently it was a very obvious glance. Well, look, if you're a team executive and you're a suddenly rich rookie buys a Lamborghini, is that a red flag with you? And is there anything to be done about that? Because back in the day, you could put in a contract, you can't own a motorcycle.
Motorcycles, yeah.
Right. Is
jet
that still
skiing,
do the CBAs still allow for that kind of language in a contract?
Motorcycles, mopeds, jet skis, snowboarding, skiing.
But not Lamborghinis.
But not Lamborghini because it's a car. And
right.
I don't
Very
think you get into
car.
very
Imagine
fast
if
car.
someone told you couldn't have a Corvette.
I'm a grown-ass man who's not filthy rich. I can't afford a Lamborghini. Well, I probably can, but that's beside
Whoa!
Hey!
Okay, Greg. No, let me tell you.
I'll note that Tom Brady got suspended 4 games for smashing a cell phone.
Let me tell you anecdotally. I have driven on a racetrack. Christopher, you were there when I was on a racetrack driving a Lamborghini-type car, and I think I topped out at like 140 miles an hour. It is absolutely terrifying to go that fast. There's the feeling of
The new and unimproved Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz. Gamble on by DraftKings.